Hi everyone. I am back. Throughout the past few months, I've been getting questions like, "How was your trip to Korea? Like, what was your experience like?" and things like that. And so I kind of wanted to make a comprehensive video that describes kind of the good, bad, and ugly, so to speak, because there were certainly like lots of great moments in my trip abroad, and I made some of the best memories of my life, but I also made some of the worst memories in my life. And really, I think, just as a general disclaimer, this is like a personal experience that I had, so certainly the things I say in this video is not just a blanket application to what everyone's experience in Korea will or will not be like. I'm wearing my, oh my god, I'm wearing my KU Pride jacket. This is actually surprisingly warm, so I'm going to be taking it off for the rest of this video. But yeah, let's get started. Another thing I wanted to mention was that I'm going to keep this video relatively anonymous because I don't want my experiences to reflect on the clubs and organizations that I was part of. So with that, let's get started. So first off, I think in Korea, there is definitely a lot of sexism, and I personally experienced a lot of sexism when I was in Korea. I'm just going to tell you some of the experiences I had with sexism that do not necessarily, I'm going to keep on repeating this, do not necessarily blanket Korea altogether. This is not my intention. So anyway, one of the most prevalent instances you would see sexism in Korea, and one of the ones that my friends and I experienced, was in a club. We went in a group of, I think, like 6 or 7 girls, and we just had a girls' night. You know, we were originally together, dancing together in a group. But then guys, without even asking, like, would you want to dance with me? Would you want to come to my group? You know, whatever. I'd just kind of grab you by the shoulders or grab you by the hip, and they would just kind of feel free to grab you, you know, and just take you with them. So I think that was a really scary experience because one second you're dancing, you know, you're dancing with your friends, and then the next you're with some guy who you don't even know. It was so bad to the extent that my friend and I had to come up with a help signal because we kept on getting separated from each other. So um, the help signal was like this. She was like in need of help because the guy was like hopelessly drunk. She was just like, "Diana," and I was like, "Yeah, I get it." Like I totally forgot we made that whole signal up, and she was like, "No, like um I may not have been the best like wing gal in that situation." There were certainly times when we needed to step in for each other, and that was just because of um, the scary situation that clubs provided. Additionally, I was practicing Taekwondo. There was the setup in which it was like we were kind of doing like a scrimmage tournament with each other, but it was like on our like just training, like normal training. It wasn't anything serious. And so the guys were just going at it, like no matter what rank, no matter what level, they were just, you know, they were going at it. And some of the ladies were more, you know, kind of going slowly, which is totally fine. Like that's totally up to the individual, you know, however they choose to train. We were watching all the ladies because the ladies were going in 2 sets and I was the second set. So I was watching the first set compete, and the head coach, who was a guy, and the captain, who was a guy, was like, "We're tired of this." And instead of encouraging the ladies to like work harder, like kick harder, you know, like teaching them strategy and different things, which they did to a certain extent, but they kind of just like set up their own match between the two of them right in front of all of the other ladies who were also trying to like fight and spar and things like that, and they just like went at it for the rest of the time. You know, I feel like it was for their own satisfaction that they kind of set up camp right in front of everyone, and like, and then everyone started cheering them on instead of watching the ladies and cheering the ladies on. So I just thought that was totally unnecessary and kind of insulting to see that they would just kind of be like, you know, whatever. But I don't know. As I said, my opinion. A separate incident, I was out with friends, and I love Coca-Cola. and I was like ordering more cola at a Korean restaurant because they call it cola instead of Coke. Anyway, so yeah, I ordered more cola, and so one of the guys was like, "You should, like you should be careful. Cola has a lot of calories." And that just kind of came as like such a condescending remark. And then he subsequently ordered cola for himself. So I know like I probably should not have done this, but I was right after he did that, I was like, "You should be careful. I hear cola has a lot of calories." And he got like offended. So I was like, so I felt like that was kind of a situation in which I had experienced something of a double standard, in which like you can say that to me, but I can't say that to you type of thing. Okay, side note, this is like kind of aesthetic, but the sun is setting in my window and it's like coming in. Do I look like I'm doing like one of those like vintage shoots for a magazine where it's just kind of like the sun is like perfect. Okay, you know what? Never mind. Okay, moving on. So another one of the things in Korea that I found interesting um, was racism, and Koreans generally, actually, one of the things I love about Korea is that Koreans are very curious about other cultures, and for the most part, like with the a lot of the younger generation, there's less racism, but I think with kind of older population, there's still racism. And me being half Korean, when they heard like I'm half Korean, then I did receive some comments of like half blood or, um, like, oh, you're not pure, you're not a pure Korean, or even, I had a friend over there who was full Korean, and she went to the immigration office, and she has a Korean last name, she has a super Korean face. She is pretty much fluent in Korean, but there were a couple things that, like, a couple, I think, like, technical legal terms that she didn't understand when she went to the immigration office. So she thought she could do the whole thing in Korean, so that's what she attempted to do. And she received some like rude or kind of like this. I think that she told me the immigration officer told her like, what, you don't speak full Korean? Like, even though you're a Korean from the United States, like you're not fluent? Like, are you serious? She was certainly not pleased with the experience. So she warned me, when I go to the immigration office, to just pretend as if you don't speak Korean at all, because people are actually the people at the immigration office at least were typically more receptive, even though you did have Korean blood, for you to just speak, if you were from America, for you to either be absolutely fluent in Korean and know everything, or just be, like not knowing a thing. The experience that she had was less than friendly. And of course, this differs with immigration officers at the immigration office as well. Maybe that lady was just having a bad day or something. Now, though, I want to talk about the good stuff because we have to end on a good note. And honestly, I don't want you thinking that Korea is all about sexism and all about racism. That's absolutely not true. For the most part, Korea is really centered on society and a social atmosphere. And I think there's really this idea of teamwork and community in Korea that I really, really like. That it's kind of this giant family. Certainly, there are situations in which that idea falls through, but I feel that there's this underlying sense of community and pride in Koreans, and people, for the most part, were really kind and really helpful. There was a certain instance I remember in which there was this fruit stand I would go to a lot, and there's this old, kind, elderly man who worked there, and I became like his regular. So he would be like, "Oh, there's this thing called like 서비스, which is literally like service," and he would just be like, he would give me like extra fruit and be like, "Oh, 서비스." So I'd get some fruit and then get some side fruit, and that would be my service. And I think another great thing about Korea that I really loved is really the ease of transportation. You can take the subway pretty much anywhere. Okay, I am saying Korea, Korea, Korea a lot. I mean, when I say Korea, I'm meaning Seoul. And then also, One of the great, and I think one of the greatest things I loved about Korea was that Koreans are so curious about other cultures. They would just come up to you and be like, "You look foreign. Like, are you a foreigner? Where are you from?" And, this conversation can be in Korean or English. Koreans are genuinely curious about other cultures, which I think a lot of Americans can learn. So overall, just to close, I wanted to say that I really liked my time in Korea, even though I made some memories that some people would prefer not to. No, I don't think, I know. I definitely grew into a person who I became more proud of, and I learned a lot about myself, as short as the time was. I learned more about what my values are. I just wanted to make this last disclaimer that a lot of the things I said were my trip and the people I spoke to. This doesn't necessarily good or bad. This doesn't necessarily apply to Korea as a whole. And it's just some of the things I personally experienced. So that being said, thanks for coming along on my journey, and I guess I'll see you for my next journey. Bye!